That's right. That's right. We are live. Matrix University is live. Neo-Ologist, please stand up. We're ready to do part 2 of our Matrix Resurrections review and reactions live here at Matrix University. Please say hello to the class, Vesuvius and Alias Trinity.
Hey everyone.
Greetings, Red Pills.
So I have, before I do anything, I have to remember to tweet this out, let everybody know in the Twitter universe that we are live right now. Okay. So yeah, we're I guess, we don't really have a set time, but we're trying to power through this, try not to keep Vesuvius up all night. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. Oh, right. But before we do that, if you haven't already, please like the stream on your way in. If you're watching a playback, like the stream. Right before we got ready for this, I actually uploaded that Agent Morpheus video. So if you guys have questions or had questions or were confused by the whole modal situation, hopefully that video helps. Yeah, so that's up. I try, usually the videos and the live streams aren't that close together, but I just wanted to get it out there so you guys didn't have to wait. But yeah, that said, shout out to everybody in the room. I see my mods, Jay Scotty, Kavion Davis. Shout out to all you guys. Yeah, so where were we last night? Where did we leave off?
Believe we ended off at the construct. Yeah.
Right. So the construct we're talking about is on the Nemesine.
Yes.
Where we have the Dojo fight. So did we talk about the Dojo fight? I think we were talking about the conversation leading to the Dojo fight. Did we talk about the Dojo fight?
I don't think so. I think we were still in the white room.
Yeah.
And now we're in the...
Right. We were talking about the TV, the differences between the TV and... Yeah. Okay. So Dojo takeaways. Was there anything that stood out to you guys?
Visually, it looked really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they got Yaya in those colors, man. Those bright colors.
So far.
Okay. Really, that's interesting.
Yeah, and a little Morpheus callback because like he kind of had like the I guess tunic, the top, but it didn't connect in the front, so it kind of looked like Morpheus giving the Zion speech, where he basically had his chest showing. So it was kind of a callback to that. And I liked the martini. I like the martini. I don't know why. I don't know if that's like a Merovingian reference or if it's just something that they had fun with, but it was just a nice touch. I just liked it.
Was that what he was drinking in Reloaded in the Merovingian restaurant, martini?
The Merovingian was.
Yeah, he had the martini with the olives. Yeah. Merovingian did, or at least he had it in Club Hell.
See, that's the thing. It's funny because I'm remembering it in the restaurant in Reloaded, so that might just be his drink. So for me, I did like it. I thought it was cool. Just that whole "I know exactly what you need" kind of thing. Morpheus, or rather the Morpheus 2.0 version, fully being aware of himself, and like you said, in the ship's network, he kind of learned more about himself. And in the dojo scene, it's really showing and embracing that I guess new knowledge or rediscovering of self for him as a digital sentient being. So you've got some of the, what do you call it, force push and like that element added to this version of the dojo fight. For me personally, like, I get it, like, the training and Wu Ping isn't doing the fight choreography this time around, so in that way it's different. But I think that visually at least, it was very stylish. It was like just the colors and the cinematography and the shots is just like eyegasm. Um, yeah, no, I definitely loved the way it looked. Um, what's interesting to me is I've seen the movie 4 times, but I'm not really remembering the actual moves that much, which is kind of weird. So now I kind of want to go back and watch it again before I like say anything else about it. But is there was there any like major plot things or any Easter eggy things in that scene that you guys wanted to talk about before we moved on?
Well, you actually segued into it really well, because I was going to say Morpheus's choreography is much faster than it was in the original film. Because in the original, in the first film, you have that juxtaposition of him having really slow and controlled movements against
Mm.
Neo's really fast, kind of sporadic movements until he figures it out. But in this one, like, he's still controlled, but he's a lot quicker. And maybe that's that connection of him also being written as an agent, right? He has that quicker way of moving. He moves his feet really fast. So that really stood out to me in the fight.
Yeah, I think that might be a wine glass that the Meravision has in Reloaded. It's hard to tell what's in it. It's kind of dark. But
Yeah, he does mention the wine.
yeah.
Maybe it was Revolutions.
Yeah, it's Club Hell Club for the martini. Um all right, so what's after the dojo?
Neo's brain capacity blows up.
Oh right, he makes the thing spark when he force explodes the dojo.
Yeah. And then that's that clip that we tried to analyze to see if he was bleeding or not.
Yeah, it was
So,
definitely bleeding.
yeah, totally. And then from there, they get to Io, I believe.
Yeah, now there was something real quick, and we didn't talk about this in the live. I think we talked about it in prep or after a live session once. I did double check. So the spike, like when they jack you into the matrix or the construct or whatever, yeah, the spike for the neck jack is definitely way smaller. In fact, I don't even know that there is a spike on that thing.
It's so small.
Yeah, it's tiny spike. But I did notice that in like my third viewing, I checked. I think.
Correct me if I'm wrong though, but isn't it quite long in the end of the movie? I'm gonna check.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. If they're on the ship, they might have been jacked in the head jack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because by the end of the movie, they're out of the anomalium.
Yeah.
Right. So entering IO, right, you talked about the cave looking wall or the Wakanda style.
Stalactites.
Stalactites. There you go. So right, we pull in through, I guess, the hologram wall or whatever you want to call it, the shield.
Cloaked wall.
Yeah. Did you guys have any immediate IO impressions when they pull in?
Well, I was thinking New Zion the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
New Zion being a more fortified city that the humans moved to in Chapter 8 of the Matrix Online. And it was actually the thing that broke the truce in the eyes of the architect. So they were moving all of these supplies and food and weapons out of Zion and into New Zion, and it was impossible for the machines to drill into New Zion. So I was kind of looking for similarities between IO and New Zion, but very, very different. Very different. And Niobe goes on in her detail to explain why Zion, New Zion are so different than IO.
Right, and a big part of that is the machine assistance.
Yeah. Oh, and when we get to that, I've got some thoughts.
Mm.
But
Well,
I don't want
Trinity,
to get.
did you? Yeah, he doesn't want to jump ahead of you. Did you have any like initial IO impressions or takeaways?
You definitely see right off the bat that it's a combination of nature and machine. So I do believe you get glimpses of what looks like grassy fields almost at the bottom. So there's elements of that. You see like carrier ships, machines, I don't know, floating around. So you definitely get that connection. I'm looking at it now. There's definitely the fields, and it's more expansive, I guess, because in Zion, when you come in, you don't necessarily see the city right off the bat. You see the docks, and they're two separate spaces. Whereas here, it's almost more combined, and you have multiple towers throughout it. So it's a quite different look from Zion, but still reminiscent.
Real quick, Shogun, thank you for the super chat. He says benefits of a neck jack versus a head jack, more direct to spinal cord. Oh, question mark though.
I was just looking at it actually. And when they unplug Trinity on the ship, they're still using the head jack. But I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's a good question. I don't know that we were given a technical difference in the dialogue. I mean, it's clearly visibly different. The way it kind of hangs off the side of the neck there. Now, what I will say is that we do see a neck jack in the Matrix comic broadcast depth, and those kids were potentials of the Oracle. So even though Ramachandra was in charge of the Anomalium in both the Matrix Resurrections and the Matrix Online, it would appear that the Oracle was experimenting before any of that even got started. So I don't know if there's any biological interface program connections to be made there. If there is a reason why the BIP might want a neck jack as opposed to a head jack, I don't know. These are all great questions, but questions that I wouldn't say have been expressly or directly answered yet. V, you got anything on that?
No, nothing relating to the BIP. Just that nugget that you explained that Starshore had remembered all those years ago. Real cool connection to Paul Chadwick's writing of the very early chapters of the Matrix Online and citing that neck jack and the what did he call it? That there was a project that was planned, and then we have this anomalium.
Now, real quick here. Shout out to Beverly Yellow Pillar in the building. We see you. This comment I've seen somewhere before. I mean, I don't know where, but Support Gaming says, I honestly would have preferred if Morpheus in this movie was OG Morpheus and Niobe's son instead of a program. So the problem with that is, is it King Vader?
Yeah, King Vader.
Yeah, so there's a fan film. It's like an hour long. It's on the YouTube Fan a Matrix playlist on this channel. But yeah, they already did that in a fan film. So if they would have did that, then it's like, oh, you're just copying off the fan film. So I don't know if Lana Wachowski was aware of that. There's no way to know that from my perspective. But you know what I mean? Like for me, I'm like, somebody did that already. So I personally would rather, if they're going to recycle, I'd rather it be the Morpheus sim. I mean, I guess I'm biased since I experienced that in the Matrix Online, so it wasn't a shock to me. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Like I said, there's a whole playlist of fan fiction, the Phantom Matrix playlist on this channel here. So back to IO. Right. So Trinity's observation about the old Zion, like I said, you saw the docks first, but then it's like this kind of like tunnel straight down, where we made the comparison yesterday. IO has that Wakandan dome feel to it. More open, like we mentioned before. The machines helped them build it, so they got all kinds of cool tech. Where Zion had kind of that old, grimy tech, keeping the water and air clean. What's that? I always forget that elder's name. Was it Counselor Haman,
Yeah,
something like that?
Hammond.
Hammond, something.
Hmm.
That whole conversation in Revolutions. Um, so yeah, so the alliance is kind of an extension of that conversation, right? Or the next chapter of that. Um, right, because
So
we got enter. What were you gonna say, V?
when they enter IO, because I've got it going on my HBO Max right now.
Nice.
Shameless plug. So they come through like a tunnel structure, and it's all golden. It's all golden light.
I did notice the golden light. And that's the thing, they don't specify. I mean, I said in my spoilers that I think it's like an EMP thing, but they weren't real specific as to why it was that color.
Oh yeah. Okay. So now I see the stalactites coming from the clouds. Yeah, and IO has an open concept, open flooring concept.
Prius 99 says the fact that Wachowski used Matrix 4 to poke fun at the previous trilogy was a smart move. They already knew that people were going to attack the idea of a sequel.
Yeah, I feel like more she was, I don't know, what, biting her thumb at Warner Brothers and the haters, and maybe the people who feel like they're in control of the Matrix franchise.
So what else we got in the entering of IO? So right. So you mentioned in Zion, the first thing you see is the docks. In IO, you got to go through the wall and all that stuff. And then they got to the dock, and there was a welcome party there, similar to when the Neb returns in. Is that Reloaded? Yeah, it's Reloaded. For not following orders.
Typical.
Well, he did follow orders.
Who's he?
Morpheus. He returned to Zion.
Yeah, he just delayed it a little bit.
Well, no, he asked somebody else to stay behind, but he followed
Right.
order. He was good.
Very true. Very true.
So right, so that's enter IO. Once we get inside IO and they are greeted by Max Reinfeldt Shepard, which I actually really liked his character. I think he's a really good actor. Yeah, so once they get there, they then immediately get taken to General Niobe. The General.
Yes. Finally revealed who the general actually is in this iteration.
So your thoughts on General Niobe?
I think it raises some questions as to how she became the general. What happened to Locke? What did she do that got her that promotion?
Right, because Vesuvius, they saved Locke in the Matrix Online, right? He didn't die, right?
Yeah, so there's another siege on Old Zion, and he is injured but survives, and then he's transported like later in the storyline, and is successfully transferred to New Zion. And in his absence, who takes over as commander of the Zion army but Captain Roland? And he's not referred to as commander in this movie. I was a little disappointed in that.
She said Captain Roland was my grandfather, or just Roland was my grandfather?
I think she just said Roland was my
I think
grandfather. So. Which, to be fair, if you're talking about someone in your family, you might not give them the military title. You'll just say Roland.
It was her granddaddy.
I don't know. If somebody knows them as the officer, you give them the title. Damn it! I want these.
You just want that, and that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, now here's another thing. I might be just crazy picking up on this, but Niobe's hair is like silver and I don't want to say braided because it's not braids, but the style it's in, it
Dreadlocks.
Yeah, they're dreads.
okay, yeah, dreadlocks. Well, it looks different to me, but I'll take your word for it. So it looks to me like in Revolutions when they're fighting all the Sentinels and like the Sentinels are like all dead on the ground, like their legs are just all intertwined. Like it's got like this similar like I don't know, just it just kind of reminds me of that. I'll post a comparison picture.
Now, I think yesterday we mentioned that the hair difference that we saw from the interview is the scene where she's talking about the Civil War, right? Well, I guess we're
Yeah.
at that point now, right?
Yes.
Oh, real quick. One thing before that, I don't really understand the question. He says, what was that about the skies, though? How do you mean? You talking about the bio sky?
Biosky works like grow lights. They can have plants now.
Yeah, there was
It's
definitely.
more complicated than that. They say why it's more complicated than that in the movie.
Yeah, but
There's
there
this
were
guy.
some like acronyms, abbreviations that I didn't know what that stood for. So,
I'd have to open it up
yeah,
to check.
I'd have to find out more about that. Actually, let's see in the transcript if I can find it here. Right, Dad loved redwood, so we're on the ship still. That's where we stopped. Okay. Right, he says it balances the ECO and our SRI cycles.
Google
Right.
that, Jamie.
It pulls water from the crust, hydrogenating the air. So, yeah, he said it's way more complex than just that.
I guess with Niobe, it also raises the question of the political structure of Io. You don't hear anything about a council in Io. You don't see anybody who's a council member, right? So definitely, that's not definitely, but you don't get that sense anymore. So you kind of wonder how things operate.
Dictatorship.
I think so too, to be honest.
So
I think
far, that's all we
Niobe's
got to
leading
go
with
on.
an iron fist.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, when you're talking about, post-apocalyptic situation, like I said, she's the general. I mean, a kind of military political structure doesn't really surprise me in that scenario. Aliens in Space says, I have a question. How much time passed in canon between revolutions and resurrections? I thought it was 20 years. Niobe looks so old. So, right, the
They said
20-year
more like
thing
60.
in the real world, right?
Yeah, there's two different timelines.
Right. Inside the Matrix, Neo thinks that only 20 years has passed. In the real world, 60 years has passed. So that's the difference there. Like when writer David Mitchell was talking about 20 years in the interview, I think he was speaking just towards that line. In fact, when I watched the actual movie and thought about it, I'm like, was that a pump fake? Was he like misleading us or misdirecting us a little bit there? That I don't know. But he might have just been speaking towards the line in inside the Matrix where Neo sees himself as the older man, Stephen Roy, playing him in the mirror, saying, oh, 20 years has passed. And Bug says it's been a lot longer than that. And we find out in the real world it's 60. And Niobe is in her 90s, which is a good transition because, we're at the point where Neo meets Niobe in IO. And, one of the things, because like I said, we talked yesterday about, some of the stuff that she said that kind of makes the whole Matrix Online situation questionable and all that stuff. So I don't want to repeat everything. But one thing I didn't say is, in the original Matrix trilogy, Morpheus is actually like the most inaccurate person because he's like led blindly by his belief, right? Like he's like all into the prophecy and the dogma. And so there's stuff that he says that he believes is the truth, but we find out that it's not true. Um, in the case of General Niobe at 90 years old, this is something we were talking about, I guess, after yesterday's live. She's 90. She might be telling her version of the story a little bit, or not remembering things quite properly. Like, that's definitely a thing when you're 90 years old. Like, my grandmother is talking crazy sometimes. But
Yeah, we talked about that unreliable narrator.
yeah, so that could definitely be a factor. But anywho, right. So we're at Niobe explaining to Neo all that is going on, when he asked about Zion and what happened. Yeah, did you guys have any big takeaways, or she kind of information dumped in that scene? So was there anything you guys wanted to bring up or highlight that she said there?
Can go ahead.
Well, not really, and I feel like a little silly saying this, but I've only watched it twice, and there is a lot of info there, so I don't really have anything right now to like dissect or connect to um, expanded universe or anything like that right now.
That's a fair
Oh,
point. Oh, go ahead.
actually, I do. She talked about um, IO being developed with machines. But when we go back to that counselor Hammond or Haman conversation, he talked about the codependency of machines and humans in Zion. And he's like, yeah, we need these machines to survive. So that's why we don't just go ahead and destroy them because, oh, we just hate all machines. So it's a little bit different. I understand it's a little bit different because the machines that Niobe has used to build IO are sentient as opposed to the more primitive machines that were in Zion.
Mm.
So together they built a greater city peacefully, but there's I feel like there should have been some kind of acknowledgement to that conversation because it was pretty lengthy in Reloaded.
Real quick here, Shogun, thank you for the super chat. He says, "What was the deal with Neo looking like?" And then if you go here, he meant different people. So what was the deal with Neo looking like different people? We talked about that last night, so you definitely want to watch the replay on that live stream for more details. But the short answer is that the analyst altered Thomas Anderson's digital self-image in the Matrix to help hide him. So when Bugs saw him, he looked like James McTeague. When we see him, he looks like Stephen Roy in the mirror. We don't know how many times he's changed his appearance, but we get the idea that it's happened a few times. So that's what's going on with that. It's just a way to help hide Thomas Anderson from being discovered inside the Matrix.
And I do believe it goes beyond just the physical appearance as well. They're altering something so he doesn't appear on, or he doesn't read the same on the monitors. So if it was just a matter of a physical thing, his code would still show essence of him,
Okay, so right, so I lost the comment, but somewhere somebody asked where to go. So Matrix Online is no longer canon in the series ? So we're at that point, right? I mean, we did talk about that. We kind of jumped ahead yesterday, and talked about that part of the dialogue in Niobe's speech. Vesuvius, did you want to take that while I see if I can find it again? I don't know where I lost it. I thought I had it highlighted.
Yeah, let me go ahead and just put myself as close to the Matrix Online as a presence online here on our internet that I'm as close to the Matrix Online and the movies kind of um, straddling the line between them both, and I can say for sure that the Matrix Online was canon because it was marketed that way, and we're in like a limbo right now because nothing was directly addressed to confirm it or retcon it. So it's really up to you whether you want to focus on certain details that will retcon it or certain details that will, I guess, have it remain canon. I can argue either way right now, but it's really not up to me. I mean, it's up to me for how I decide, but it's not up to me how you decide.
Right. So I did find it. Let me see if I can put that on the screen. Right. So this is the particular set of dialogue that Vesuvius is referencing. Right. It says, Neo asks what happened to Zion. Niobe answers, I've been waiting for you to ask that question. All of the trouble started in the machine cities. Power plants were unable to produce enough energy. Nothing can breed violence like scarcity. For the first time, we saw machines at war with one another. We got word from the Oracle of a new power rising. That was the last we heard from her. Morpheus? This is what Neo says. And Niobe responds, after the siege, he was elected unanimously, high chair of the council. Oh, how he loved that. But as rumors of this new power spread, he ignored them. He was certain what you had done could not be undone. All of these people never stopped believing in miracles, believing in you. So that's the only thing in the entire film that kind of speaks to the question that was asked here, right? And like I said last night, she says after the siege. That's real non-specific. The only siege that we know of for sure would be Revolutions and Old Zion, right? Vesuvius in Matrix Online.
Yes.
Okay. So by the time we hit the old Zion siege in the Matrix Online, Morpheus has already been killed by the assassin in the Matrix Online, right?
Yeah.
So that would narrow it down to Revolutions. Now, if there was a siege of Zion that they're referring to that, happens in the 60 years, well, they, like I said, it was real non-specific. We don't have a timeline for that, but we do have Revolutions. So if we take what she says with what we have after Revolutions, Morpheus could have been elected high chair of the council. Right. And then what I said yesterday was that the analyst in his story later on, he tells Neo that he was there the day Neo died. So based on that part of the timeline, we know the analyst, or at least we assume in this conversation that the analyst is that new power rising, getting ready to take over or replace the architect. So there could have been murmurs of that before the Matrix Online, before Morpheus got killed in the Matrix Online. Like, there's nothing here. There's no timestamps. There's nothing on the timeline that says this retcon the Matrix Online or it didn't. It's just there. So I feel like it's one of those things in the Matrix universe. You have to decide for yourself. You have to choose if you feel like it was erased or not. Now, like I said, for me, either way, I feel like there's so much of the Matrix Online in Resurrections that at this point it really doesn't matter to me. I think the word somebody used in the chat yesterday is that Resurrections echoed a lot of the plot points from the Matrix Online. So, either way, to me, it still fits. And again, I was there, so I felt that obligation to continue the story. And I think that I don't want to let that go specifically. So if she's not going to force me to, I'm not going to. So there's that. Yeah, I lost the other comment. Oh no, here, Franz. Hey, shout out to Franz. He says IO has to mean something. Well, IO means input output. In last night's live stream, someone mentioned that 0-1 in binary.
1-0 would be the next digit.
Right, so it'd be 0-1 and 1-0. But didn't he say that's yes, no, or something like that?
I
0
think
1
so.
is 1 and 1 0 is 2.
Oh, there you go. 1 and 2. Thank you. 1 and 2. And then you said, Trinity said, if you put a Z in the front and an N in the back, you have Zion. So you can play with that a little bit, just those two letters. All right. So where were we on the timeline?
For the movie?
Yeah, right. It was we're talking about Niobe's speech here. So we covered the Matrix Online reference to that. I'm just kind of like scrolling through the transcript. Right, because after she gets him caught up, tells him about the machine civil war. And right, that's something that I guess we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but we didn't want to get too far ahead. Because when you piece together what Bugs tells him on the Nemesine and the conversation that he has with Niobe, like Bug said, Neo changed the definition of what our side means. That they have an open alliance with the machines. Niobe said that the machines help them build IO. And Sati echoes that later on as well. So yeah, after we get the somewhat information about the 60 years, Niobe orders Shepard to take Neo to his room. I mean, they say in prison, but I don't know that it was like the brig. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I did notice the door also said it was like the quarantine room. I don't know if that's significant or not, but
nice pickup. I gotta check that out. I didn't even see that.
But yeah, it didn't seem like he was necessarily being locked away in jail forever, but he didn't have free reign to just wander around the city either. So it raises the question, is she hiding him from the general population?
Jedi Chris, thank you for the super chat. He says Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving should have reprised their roles, their reprisals, and this direction still could have coexisted. This is the only thing that pisses me off about the movie.
It's your prerogative.
Yeah, no, of course, Lawrence Fishburne is a great actor. He was missed. Hugo Weaving was missed. I mean, there is that element, but at the same time, again, with having played the Matrix Online, the whole Morpheus sim thing was like not new or a shock to me. Like I expected it almost, I mean, as soon as they said Lawrence Fishburne wasn't in it, I'm like, okay, this is where this is going. And that's where it went. Like I said, I made that meeting with Morpheus video literally 2 years ago. So that wasn't like a blindside to me. And I think Yaya did a good job. Like I wasn't disappointed with his performance at all. Same thing goes with Groff. And that's what I was going to say. I think I understand because I was so upset when Morpheus got killed in the Matrix Online. Like I remember that part of the game because it happened so fast. And I was like, really? It was iconic character. He's going to take him out in chapter 1. So yeah, that part, like I kind of, I guess, came to terms with that part of the storyline. So, but I understand that anger because I could relate to it. I've had that anger. But I think Paul Chadwick's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not mad at him. That said, originally Hugo Weaving was supposed to come back. There was, and James McTeague recently talked about this and verified that story. That there was a scheduling conflict with Hugo Weaving's theater schedule, and then on top of that, you had the pandemic. So they couldn't make it work. So that is just something that they had to deal with, and I thought that Jonathan Groff did a great job working around it. In fact, I almost feel like Groff fits the style of this film better than Hugo Weaving would. Not that, I mean, I still think Hugo Weaving is a better actor overall, but I think in terms of just there's something about the I guess playful delivery of Groff that really works in this meta setting. Yeah, I don't want to just keep going on about that, but yeah, I thought, like I said, honestly, I thought pretty much every main actor who had lines did a great job in this. So I wasn't disappointed with the acting.
Yeah, I think once you see it as less of a replacement of Weaving and Fishburne, it's a lot more enjoyable. Because if you're mad about a quote unquote replacement, that's one thing, but they're not replacements. They're different.
Yeah, I was saying
So
in the case of Smith, Smith is in the Matrix. He's a program, like, you know, we've gotten new shells before. Now, yeah, I get it that Gloria Foster passed away, you know, rest her soul. But
it's not an unknown concept.
yeah, it's something now. Yeah, it's not like in Sense 8 when they completely erased Capheus and replaced him with Toby Amamir. I mean, they did a quick meta line about it and just kept it pushing, you know. So you know, it wasn't that. And again, even in that case, you know, Toby Amamir did a great job being a replacement. So, you know, when you have good actors, you just kind of gotta roll with the punches, suspend your disbelief, and keep it pushing. So right, so where are we now? So right, the general stuck you in the Rapunzel tower. Right. So this is where we first see that the paramagnetic oscillation of real world Morpheus can slink up and down metal vents and tubes and spigots and tiny spaces. Again, yeah, no, it's like this kind of like mix between T1000 and T3000 in Terminator, which I'm not mad about at all. But yeah, that's how he got up into Neo's room, and then they had the Nemesine ready on standby to break him out. I loved the tail of the Nemesine. I loved how it kind of moved like it was like a lobster or something. So where do we go next? Right. So escape. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They didn't. It wasn't like an elaborate escape. Like
no.
Just...
In my head canon, we don't know how long Neo was in that room for. Maybe it was a couple hours or something.
Well, and this is where Aunt Rachel comes in. Freya, Thelma Hopkins' character, right? You know, she kind of talked Jada Pinkett into letting them go. You know, she knew they were leaving. It's not like I said, there was no real breakout here.
Yeah.
She basically pulled up in front of the house and honked her horn and put the hood down. And Neo jumped out of the window and climbed down the terrace and jumped in the back seat.
Yeah. Exactly that.
Now, they mentioned Rapunzel. So do we have another fairy tale role reversal? Like Sleeping Beauty at the end of part 1?
Well, we have that idea of Neo being the damsel in distress, and Trinity's coming to free him from Mobile Ave.
Oh yeah, that's another one.
I've seen the Lady and the Tramp reference made before. That Neo gets locked up. He's the lady locked up waiting for the tramp to come rescue him.
Okay, this question is jumping ahead a little bit, but I do want to answer it so we don't get it lost in the comment sauce here because it's a good question. Joker says, you think Sati was the manta ray in real life? So, right, the manta ray that goes into stealth mode.
Kojaku.
Right. The name is Kujaku, however you pronounce that, for that machine. However, in the same way, what Sati says is that Kujaku saved her from being purged. Okay. So in a way, he's not completely wrong, because in the same way that Morpheus was chilling at the crib in the construct on the Nemesine, Sati, her program consciousness is being carried by Kujaku.
They're separate, but they're connected.
Right. Like, I guess he got like a partition hard drive in there for her or something. I don't know. But yeah, it definitely Shadow Artist says Kujaku is just hosting the construct that Sati was inside of. It likely has its own personality. Absolutely. Like I said, it has its own name. It is its own machine, but it is the machine that saved her from being purged.
Yeah, so a little Sati's playground where she gets to do her sunsets in a little construct.
Yeah, no, I told you guys what live was that? I don't remember. We had done so many now. But before the film, man, I just was getting so many heavy construct vibes. Like, you've got Sati's construct, and then the construct that we saw before on the Nebuchadnezzar, only this time it's the Nemesine. Then you've got the modal, which is kind of its own construct. I definitely would prefer to use construct than MIM.
No, we don't use that word here.
Thank you. But yeah, so you've got some constructs inside the matrix, on the ship, in IO, floating around. I mean, I love that part of it. And yeah, the Kujaku thing, I think I didn't really pick up on that until because I sent you a message, Vesuvius. I was like, Sati was saved by Kujaku. Who's that? So I didn't really piece that together until like my third viewing, because I didn't even catch that she said it until the second time that I saw it, and I was like, wait, who's that? So the third time I watched it, I was like trying to figure out who that was. And then in the Great Escape of Trinity, which I'm getting ahead, but yeah, let's let's power through this. So we entered IO, we were inside IO, we've escaped IO. The next on the soundtrack is Broadcast Depth. So this would be them jacking back into the Matrix and running into guess who?
Surprised to see me?
That would be Smith. Now, I mentioned in the Agent Morpheus video that I just posted, if you look at the credits, Jonathan Groff's character is credited as Smith.
Yep.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen is credited as Morpheus / Agent Smith, but Groff is never called an agent.
No.
So I thought that was noteworthy that he is Smith, but he is just Smith. He is not an agent of the system.
Well, the agents don't really exist, do they?
Right. The agent that we saw are in Neo's modal that he wrote with old code. And the analyst later explains
that he replaced them all with bots.
Right. That would be the swarms, because swarm mode is sick fun. But
yeah.
I thought we saw some agents at the end.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, there's some like FBI dudes and SWAT. Keep an eye out. Definitely send some screenshots if you got it. But yeah, the analyst said that that it was a waste of resources.
Yeah, it's easier to have the bots because you can have more of them, and they're hidden, and you just activate them when you want.
So Seek mentions that Groff Smith reads like an agent, but not.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I was going to ask you guys. Because my interpretation of those clues, when you add them together, is that, and this might even be a Matrix Online kind of tie-in, right? Because, what was that? Agent Gray would glitch out because of the Smith virus, and was it Skinner was the one that didn't make it?
Yeah, Skinner had a self-destruct.
Right. Yeah, he was infected by the Smith virus so bad that he had to self-destruct. So in the Matrix Online, there was, leftover Smith virus code and fragments inside the Matrix. The point here is that they're non-specific on whether the analyst recreated Smith from scratch or not. But with the awakening, I would imagine that he used some form of previous Smith code and repurposed it. So it's not just that Smith didn't recognize Neo because of his DSI being different, but his memory was wiped as well, is where I'm going with this. That just like the Oracle was repurposed to be the Oracle, from what was her previous role, investigating the human psyche.
Yep.
Now, in her case, I don't believe that the architect memory wiped her, but in the case of the analyst, I believe that he did memory wipe Smith, or try to anyway, and kind of use him as a handler for Thomas Anderson. And then there's some of that like psychological torture in there as well. He talks about how, the more they manipulate people plugged into the matrix, the better their power output is. So by keeping him close to his adversary in a working situation, that's
Where
kind of
they're
like
partners, even.
right, they're partners. So that's a daily torture that Neo has to kind of deal with, right?
Mhm.
So that's part of the maximizing the power output of Neo, as well as keeping him mentally crippled from being able to discover who he is and break out of the treadmill that the analyst has him on. Yeah, see, and that's the thing. Wait, go ahead, V.
So he's got both sides of the equation in one place. So he doesn't have to go, looking here and there to keep tabs on Smith and keep tabs on Neo. He's got them both in the same place. And apparently, neither of them have their memories.
So, okay, where are we on the timeline? Because I don't want to keep V all night.
I think we're
The exiles have, Smith is
Right.
around.
Smith and the exiles.
He is wanting revenge against the analyst because he's mad at him. He doesn't like being controlled. But Neo coming to rescue Trinity is getting in the way of him accessing the analyst. So then they fight and exiles show up.
Right. He said, I found some old friends of yours. So that's one thing I was going to say. This new version of Smith, where the old version was consumed by ego, which I think I talked about in an old video. This new version of Smith is real quick to ally. He's real quick to kind of my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Mm-hmm. And he does that a few times.
Yeah. So the exile fight is just kind of our first taste of that. But well, maybe second if you want to say he was siding with the analyst swarm or SWAT when they were attacking Neo and Morpheus and Deus Machina building. But yeah, with the exiles, he found the Merovingian. And right, this is where we see the Merovingian.
People didn't like him. I thought he was so fun.
You were going to say about the Merv?
Yeah, so when they finally do jack back into the Matrix, they're in France because we can see the Eiffel Tower in that mirror that mirror portal that they enter that hotel in. And then what's his name there? I don't know the character's name. Brian J. Smith's character. He closes those doors.
That's Berg.
What is it, Berg?
Berg, B-E-R-G, Berg, the resident Neo-Ologist.
Yes. So he closes the doors, reminiscent of how Persephone closed the doors and then reopens them up, and they're in a different, the doors open to a different area, which is what the not the factory, the warehouse. And as he's opening the doors, we can see a statue of an old Merovingian statue head.
Oh, real quick, Randy. What's up, brother? Thank you for the super chat. He says, I think the analysts wiped all of their memories. Yeah, I totally agree. Neo, Smith, like at Trinity, they all got the memory wipe treatment. For sure. Smith would be the only question mark, but I don't think it was just the DSI. I think he literally, got a refresh or a memory cleansing. Yeah, I loved Berg too. Our resident Neo-Ologist. So the Merovingian, I've seen people didn't like his cameo. I think most of those were probably Mervs from the Matrix Online though.
He's a controversial cameo, apparently.
um
I thought he was fun, and I think it adds that extra layer of criticism for having a fourth movie.
um so I have spoken to some French speaking people from France, Matrix fans, who said that I guess whatever slang he picked up for his French swearing, the what I've heard, I don't speak French, so I have no idea what he said. But from what I've heard, it's like weird. Like, you
I've
know what I
heard
mean?
it's worse and more raunchy than things that he said in the first or in Reloaded.
Right, but I guess what they were trying to describe is that it's like how do I put this? Like young kid slang, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
if that makes sense, like I don't know if like somebody had like some type of TikTok video that kids all knew this
Love
specific
TikTok.
set of curses, you know what I mean? And it blew up and
Yeah,
went
yeah.
viral. It'd be like that kind of thing where it was like, because he's an adult, it's like just it was just described to me as like it sounded out of place, like if you're a French person.
That's fair. That's fair. I
You
like
know?
to think that he doesn't even have a script and they just tell him to shout some nonsense.
Yeah, no, he definitely sounded like he ad-libbed that. It definitely sounded like he went on his own tangent and they were cool with it. Yeah, they said Astro Ice here says, oh yeah, shout out to Astro Ice. He says it's teen slang. Oh, like you're trying to ball my mom, that kind of thing. Like I don't know any adults that say that. Zoomer French. That's great. So yeah, his cameo was quick. But I liked seeing him, even though it was only short. I've heard people say that the exile thing was kind of random. But my thing is, because Smith found some exiles. See, they don't explain why bullet time doesn't affect him anymore. Or right. Now part of that might just be because he was an agent and the agents are no longer in the system. But because he was an agent, he can still move like they do,
Mm-hmm.
But you would think that Neo would be able to do that as well. Now, in fairness, Neo. Well, no, that's the thing, right? When he goes back to visit Tiffany at the motorcycle shop, he's not plugged into the main system anymore. He's not in the Anomalium anymore. He's on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Now Neo never figured out how to copy himself the way that Smith did, but I believe that Smith's copying was a perversion of what Neo did to him at the end of the first film anyway. So it's not that Neo necessarily didn't have that power. It's just that, like, the way I explain it is that because Smith was an agent previously and jumping from host to host was part of their programming, that's why the perversion of what Neo did to him was easily transferred into copying himself onto other hosts because he already knew how to do that, or he already had that access in the system, or however you want to word that. So yeah, in the original Matrix, Trinity says you move like they do, talking about, the whole dodging bullets and that whole thing. So yeah, it was interesting to me that the bullet time affected Neo, but not Smith. But again, that's what I was circling back to the exiles, though. We don't know if the exiles were affected by this. So for me, that gives you another avenue of potentially how he was able to not be affected by the bullet time, because technically he's in exile as well. Right, and that's where we are in the timeline, is the exile. So right, we got an action fight here, another action sequence. Did you guys have any like major takeaways from the fight scene between Neo and Smith?
A lot of elbows thrown.
Mm.
There's a lot of elbows. Uh, I get that they're like close proximity, so that would that would lend itself to a lot of elbows, but like we see Neo here taking on more than one enemy, which is something that he started doing in Reloaded, as opposed to part one where all of his fights were one on one. Um, you know, just to compare it to the other Matrix movies, it's not as strong as the other Matrix movies and their fight choreography. Um, Groff is a bit green, and he talked about this being like his first major, what his first fight sequence, I believe, because he compared it to stage acting and dancing, and he's like, oh yeah, like we rehearsed way more than I ever had to before for his plays and dance sequences, and he did really good, but it's got a different feel to it. It's not quite as strong as the first three movies.
You know, speaking of not quite as strong, David T. Gregory says, to be fair, Neo wasn't very creative with his powers. That's a great point because, um, you know, the analyst explained it. And, you know, prior to seeing the film, you know, I told everybody in the live stream, like, don't get caught up in who's the one and is Trinity the new one? Is Sati the one? Is, you know, don't get caught up in that. And then in Resurrections, the analyst says, they're like acid and bases. Individually, they are not as powerful, but combined is when you maximize that power. So to be fair, Neo, for most of, you know, in the scene we're talking about, in the exile scene, you know, he was away from Trinity. You know, she's on the ship. He's on the ship. She's in the anomalium. So he's not physically able to maximize his one potential.
Yeah. And then the analyst also says that they weren't able to access Neo source code until he brought Trinity in.
Mm.
Oh, that's got all sorts of implications.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, why does Neo have source code? Why does he even
Good
have it
question.
anymore?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say with the fight with Groff. One thing I noticed, this is more of a technical thing, I guess, because you know, I try to see things from, I guess, a filmmaker's lens. And in the San Francisco footage leaks when they were still shooting, you know, when they're riding the motorcycle through the flames, like there was like a shield in front of them, like, you know what I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
just to, I guess, keep them from catching on fire, even though it's theatrical fire. And then in some of the behind the scenes footage stuff, like Neo's kind of got this shield, so I could tell when he uses like the force shield or the source shield to block Groff from hitting him with the sink. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could tell that like they used that plastic shield and then, you know, removed it digitally or however they removed it in the shot. But yeah, for me, like that was perfect. Like it just works, like in terms of, I guess, the whole translation or transition from how you shoot it to what you have to do to make it look right in post. I'm like, whoever thought of that was a genius. Like it works. Like it looks really, really good. It makes sense to how his power would work or protect him in that situation.
Mm-hmm. And he used it more than once too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
One.
Like I could tell. Like I could every time they did it, I could see the shot. Like I like you know what I mean. In my head, I could see him actually holding the plastic shield.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then a couple things I liked in the fight is we've always known that Smith and Neo are connected, and a couple times in their fight they do the exact same move, right?
Yeah.
They punch each other at the same time, the same way, and then fly back. They both kick each other in the same way, and they fly back. And they each time that happens, they both kind of just stop and look at each other.
Yeah, Odd One says the absence of Wu Ping did hurt the movie when it comes to action. Yeah, you can't replace Wu Ping. You know, that's just what it is. But like I guess we were talking about it after the show yesterday, or maybe it was before. I don't know. We didn't talk about it in the live, but you know what? How old did you say Keanu Reeves is? 57,
57.
right? Like, I mean, they're not gonna be able to move like they did when they were 36. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's
And
just
you can
part.
argue he is pretty physical in the John Wick movies as well, but it's a different style of fighting.
Totally,
Yeah,
totally.
completely different.
And
Which is just a testament to his abilities. Now he is getting better um, as he gets older. He really, really is. Um, but You know, I just go back to like when he would do like interviews for the Matrix Reloaded, and he's like, yeah, in part one we did like, 3 moves per second, and now I'm doing like 9 moves per second, and they're like, oh, what do you mean? And like he's demonstrating all of the moves, and I've watched the movie a million times, so I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what he's freaking doing in the Burly Brawl, that he's doing in like an interview chair. So I mean, the man works tirelessly at the craft of fight choreography. It's clear, it
Hmm.
really is, and I think that this source powers are almost like a break for him, and it's almost a disservice to his ability as an actor, but it is the progression of the character.
And on top of that, he was filming John Wick more or less back to back. So the guy's exhausted. Give him a break.
Well, I was gonna say, what did General Niobe say? She said, "I know it doesn't seem fair, but neither does growing old. You don't hear me complaining. He's still cashing checks."
Breaking
um,
necks.
and I see what you did there. Call back to the original Matrix. Um, all right, so where are we on the timeline? All right,
Unless we have
exiles.
anything else yet we want to add about the exiles or Smith.
Now, no, you brought up a great point about them doing the same moves and that being part of the fight. Right, right. So, right, we said exiles, but that's also the factory fight. So we covered that. Now it's time for visiting Tiffany at the motorcycle shop. And one word, say it with me, bullet time.
2
That's
words.
that's 2 words. But
Hmm.
even the analyst said it's one word, bullet time, which I thought was funny.
Well, it's hyphenated.
So thoughts on this scene, right? Because this is the scene that okay, so my question is, because I thought that the code falling Trinity was a dream sequence. So what do you make of that? Of that shot where he's talking to Trinity and she just kind of melts into code, and then she's on the other side of that workbench.
Well, it's a rewind, isn't it?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I
That's
said
what I thought. I thought it was a rewind.
Yeah, I
But
said
yeah, originally I thought it was a dream sequence
yeah.
as well.
Before we saw the movie, I thought it was a dream sequence.
Dream sequence or a something in the construct to try and get him to remember.
Well, and that's the thing. She's got
Strong.
like this green, like it's like this kind of code melt, if you will. So I mean, it could have just been a digital illusion.
Well, there's strong Goliath vibes,
Oh,
and,
definitely
and I,
fair.
I loved it. I loved it because that's my favorite Matrix comic story, and it was it just a little bit because in the comic the world melts around the character, and in this case time is still manipulated, but Trinity is the focus of the scene, and she melts away instead of the setting. So it's a good
Mm,
adaptation of that story and the effects described in that story. So I mean, I just loved that they did something like that. To get more of a direct reference to the Matrix comic Goliath than Matrix Online, it hurts a little bit, but considering it's my favorite Matrix story, I thought it was really, really cool.
was it though? Was it more direct though? I mean, it's
I think
there.
so.
It's
It
definitely
is,
there. I'm not gonna say it's not there
but and it's prolonged.
because we got. I still think we got a lot of MXO in here. So right, we've got Ramachandra. We've got the whole quote general with the scar that you pointed out. Right, but back to the motorcycle shop. So there's some things going on here. We find out that Kush is one of her handlers, which shouldn't be a surprise. I'm looking for the transcript right now.
Yeah, and we see Neo notices the cat, and then the code starts flowing on Trinity.
Right. Remember before I was like, watch out for deja vu. Check when she's in the shot. Yeah. I'm looking for the analyst's info dump here. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
the first thing is the analyst says that he had to convince the suits to let him rebuild both of them.
That was so funny though. He's like,
She can't hear me, by the way.
it's like renovating a house. Takes twice as long, costs twice as much.
Yep.
Great. Right. So right. Uh right. So before the analyst steps in the scene, I love Tiffany's line when she said I had a dream, or she's telling Neo about the dream. And he
Did it
says,
end well?
yeah,
Not good.
not good. That's like such a Trinity line. Or it reminded me of the elevator to the Merovingian.
Mm.
It's like she's
So good for us or bad for
right.
us?
She asked him, "Good for us or bad for us?" Well, it's wired with explosives. Bad for us. So right, that happened. Right, and so we've got again that kind of role reversal where Neo says, "I've had dreams like that aren't just dreams." A callback to Reloaded. Now she has the visions.
Yeah,
and
she
then
has the sight now, but she doesn't know who she is.
Oh, real quick. Eternity is here. Thank you for the I can't talk. Eternity is here. Thank you for the super chat. He says, if Snowpiercer is a series, so can the Matrix. I am not familiar with Snowpiercer.
It's good.
Oh, it's the train. Yeah. The wife was watched the first season. Looks pretty cool. Trinity, you watch it?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's pretty good. It's a remake, is it not?
Yeah, I think it was an old book that was a movie, and now it's a series.
No, it's a series on Netflix. It's good. I recommend it.
Okay, Netflix, I can check it out. So after Tiffany's dream, right? Or telling Neo about her dream, that's when the analyst jumps in the scene and he says, "Finally, we can talk like adults. I hate lying. It exhausts me."
And then he throws his glasses like he doesn't even need them.
But I think what's important here, because I've heard so many times, and I think this is such a terrible take, that, the architect was lying to Neo. It's like, no, he wasn't.
He never lied.
That's my point. And I think that this speaks to that. Because the analyst does lie and he admits it.
He has no problems with it.
Right. I mean, well, he
because
says
you can't manipulate facts, though. He doesn't want to manipulate facts, but he'll play with emotions. And what is a lie but manipulating facts?
I'm looking for where he actually mentions the architect. I guess did he mention him by name, or did he just say
his predecessor? In that scene, it's his predecessor.
There you go. Yeah, now my predecessor, which is a callback to the architect talking about Neo's predecessors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now my predecessor loved precision. His matrix was all fussy facts and equations. He hated the human mind. So he never realized, or he never bothered to realize, that you don't give a damn about facts. It's all about fiction. The only world that matters is the one in here, and you people believe the craziest stuff. I thought that was cute. Yeah, that got a big laugh out of me. That's what I'm saying. Like this whole so that's okay. So where people were like bored to death and what the hell is he saying during the Reloaded architect speech? This was like the opposite of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was very funny. In fact, I think this might have been the funniest scene in the movie. Right, and we also find out, which I already mentioned, and that's why I'm skipping over it, because I just went over that in the Agent Morpheus video that I posted before this live stream. The analyst says, "Clever monkey using that modal." So for me, like that part of it, it's like, right, Neo or Thomas Anderson, whatever you want to call him in that point of the movie, was definitely looking for an out. You know, the modal was his cry for help, if you will.
And that's what I said yesterday as well.
Yeah. So what else you guys got in this scene, in this speech? Right, because he said we worked for years trying to activate your source code. And that's when he starts getting into the acids and bases and explaining that they are dangerous when mixed together.
Yep. And they ran simulations to see what would be best. We find out because every sim where you bonded, let's just say bad thing happened. So they tested multiple scenarios.
Yeah, like I said, for years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we're going to keep the Matrix Online as canon, they wouldn't have started those tests until after we were shut down, because we have the Trinity sighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although, I mean, that could have been one of those tests gone awry. Now that I talk it out loud and think about it.
They mentioned he's been setting productivity records every year since he took over.
Correct.
People don't want out of their pods. They're happy where they are, suffering. So I guess in the past we've had a perfect matrix, we've had a hell matrix, all the other iterations, and this one is a desire and fear matrix.
Right. It's not hell, but like you said, desire and fear. What he said, it works just like this. Oh no, you can't stop the bullet. If only you could move a little faster.
I love the tone he says that in. When he was first cast, I didn't know what to think. I wasn't mad about it, but I just was curious to see how it went, and I think just his delivery on all of it is just so perfect.
I mean, that's the thing. He's been acting since he was a kid. You know,
Oh, I know.
he's been in the game a long time, so I was not worried. I know some people, because he's done a lot of comedy, so that's why I think people were nervous. But
Which is fair.
But it worked out. This scene was funny as hell. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was far less boring than the original Architect speech, and I love the original Architect speech, by the way. Like, that didn't rub me the wrong way. But I'm also like the type of person, like, I don't mind picking up a dictionary and looking up a word that I don't know.
Yeah, no kidding. Ergo and vis-a-vis made it into many, many school papers after that.
Apropos.
Yep. Felt like a genius. What else do we have in here? We get the threat.
Well,
that Neo has to come back.
Thank you. But I think that might be another Architect spin that a lot of people might not necessarily pick up on right away or at all. Because I don't think people picked up on it when he said it in Reloaded. I mean, essentially what the Architect had done with Neo and his predecessors is hold the entire human race hostage. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You don't go through the door I want you to go through, everybody dies.
Okay.
And right. But that's the
on
thing.
that note, Niobe says the same thing.
But in Reloaded, Neo says, okay, everybody dies and I'm gonna get my girl.
Yeah.
Right. But the analyst, instead of saying, I don't care about everybody, you just got to come save Trinity, because he knows.
Yeah. He knows that Neo's always going to pick her over everyone.
Yes. That's where I'm going with that. So
she's the only home you have. Come home before something terrible happens.
But I guess the point that I was trying to drive in terms of the analyst versus the Architect is that the analyst certainly took notes and was willing to learn from the Architect's mistakes.
Yeah, he's kind of like a blend between the Architect and the Oracle.
Hence, purging them. I would love to have a stronger definition of the suits, but maybe we'll see that in a future installment. Um,
Perhaps.
Oh,
so is
that's
there
the
any
Warner Brother executives.
now? I thought it was cute that you know, Trinity Tiffany works on motorcycles because we all know Keanu Reeves is a big motorcycle guy.
Mhm.
I'm sure he got a kick out of reading that in the script. Um,
And I've
concordantly,
I've said it before. They used his bikes in the movie.
um,
And
look,
then where do we go from here?
Christ,
He gives him the threat, come home, or something bad will happen to her. The bullet time rewind ends.
right,
Thomas Neo calls her Trinity, and the only thing she says is, "You shouldn't call me that."
right. So what did you, okay, Trinity, you're the Trinity pro here. What did you make of that line when she says you shouldn't call me that? Because this is after they had the simulate conversation about Chad
Mhm.
laughing at her, right?
Yeah,
So,
and that's the thing. Like, you don't get the movies from Neo's perspective.
mhm.
You know the suffering that they've instilled on Neo through the whole movie, but you don't get, and they don't reveal all of the torment put on Trinity. We know she hates the name Tiffany.
Hmm.
We know she's being stifled and put down by her husband, which is the opposite of what Neo would do. We know she's not happy about the fact that kids were used for this as well. And I think, again, we don't have that perspective of hers, but obviously at this point, like, she's questioning things. I think it's clear, but she's still struggling with that idea, just like how Neo was struggling, but he made that modal as a cry for help just in case he wasn't crazy.
Yeah, you
And we know that Thomas knows that Tiffany thinks she looks like Trinity, and she gets vibes of Trinity in herself. But him calling her that is too much, at least at this point in time.
she wants it, but she's not ready.
Yeah, she's not there yet.
Hmm.
She's not fully convinced.
So, Jonathan says I felt bad for those kids, though. I mean, were they real though? That's my question.
I assumed that they're programs because
Right.
Chad is.
That's what I'm saying. I think they're bots. I mean, I think she has the memory of having children. But
Mayhaps we don't even know because we know that Thomas's understanding is that he's a suicide survivor.
right.
We don't know if there was any. Maybe she got in a motorcycle accident and that's why she doesn't remember anything. Like, who knows?
And back to the whole Goliath thing, you know, we know that the machines can manipulate time and memories and all that fun stuff. I mean, even the original Matrix, um, you know, when Neo's talking about that place had really good noodles, you know,
Mhm.
which one of your memories do you consider real memories inside the Matrix? And they never actually explain, like, you know, Persephone's old role of, yeah, V, what was her technical title? Do you remember off the top of your head? Persephone's
I
title?
don't recall the title, but she facilitated
Reproduction in some way, shape, or form,
yeah,
right?
reproduction. So if people like fell in love and, you know, in the Matrix had sex, then obviously the next thing is they would get pregnant. But since they didn't have sex in the real world, her programming and I guess infrastructure facilitated them to have a baby in the fields. So then pregnancy would be simulated in the Matrix, and then they would actually have an offspring, although it would be genetically engineered.
It'd be genetically engineered, but are they using those two people's actual DNA, or are they just giving them a random kid? You know what I'm
Uh,
saying?
well, maybe Persephone, maybe her program, or when I say program, I don't mean like computer program. I mean like her purpose was creating the, I don't know, I guess DSI or RSI of the child
Mm,
once they're born. But pregnancy was simulated in the Matrix, and then
mm-hmm.
those two people had a baby.
Yeah.
But that's on my Instagram. I don't have it memorized, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think even with all those details, I think to answer the question that the default is that if Chad's a bot, there's a good chance that those kids aren't real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume they're not real, but we don't see them go into swarm mode either. They just kind of disappear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even as NPCs, I think that's more of a like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they don't want to get in trouble with this. I mean, I don't know who would enforce that, but they don't want the bad press, I guess, of
Mm-hmm.
Trinity beating the crap out of kids on a big movie screen.
Yeah, I don't think they need that.
Wrong message.
All the parents would cheer.
Teachers too.
Little brat. All right. Um, so moving on from beating up children, recruiting is the next thing I think. So that would be Niobe asking for volunteers.
Well, no, first she is reprimanding all of them and getting mad. Neo tries to defend Bugs. And then Niobe snaps at him, saying that he needs to shut his mouth and refer to her as the general only.
Right? Do shut your mouth.
Yeah. Do call me general and do not take the agency away from my former captain. And then Kojaku appears.
Yeah, Randy. I don't know, man. I don't think Jada's 90-year-old woman was that bad. She definitely. I mean, it might be more the writing than her delivery, if that's how you feel. But there were definitely moments where I'm like, yeah, she sounds like she's 90. I bought it anyway. Right, right. So while she's reprimanding them and getting ready to throw her Bugs to the brig or whatever,
Mhm.
that's when Kujaku shows up.
Yeah.
And interrupts all that.
Yeah, stand down. He's a friend. Hello, friend.
And we see him come out of stealth mode, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
And then he brings out the little jacks, similar to how they did in Revolutions.
yeah, I didn't actually catch the jacks the first viewing. I didn't catch that till the second time. But right, because after when they save Trinity, you know, I'm like, how is she still in the Matrix? Oh, he can broadcast. That's dope.
What do you mean, Jax?
That
Because they
light up
go in-
jack, the
yeah.
one that looks like a light rope.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little hard to catch the first time too.
Oh, so that's like a living personal processing unit.
Yes. And then they end up in Sati's
Her little
dreamscape wonderland.
construct, yeah.
And then we
Right.
find out that she's known about Neo and Trinity this entire time.
And that her father designed, he was the chief engineer at the Anomalium.
Yeah, likely because he wanted to help them. And then he found out that's not what was going to be happening.
Okay, so this is the part of the movie where I started to get some vibes from a certain Star Wars movie, and I've seen a lot. Well, I've seen a little bit because I've been avoiding a lot of the other content creators' articles and videos, until we got through this. But I'm seeing it compared to like The Last Jedi, and I got a lot more of a Rogue One feeling from this.
Hold on, The Last Jedi is which one?
I don't know.
That's the one in the middle, I think, right? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one in the middle. That's episode 8.
Yeah.
I know them by numbers, not by titles. So that's why I have to stop and like do that. You were saying?
So in Rogue One, the main character, whose name is on the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite produce it. So her father builds the Death Star,
Death Star,
builds in
yes.
a weakness. Okay,
Chief
got it.
engineer. Yep.
Yes, spoiler alert for anyone.
Yeah.
And then transfers those, and so the whole plot is the daughter gets the plans, and so like he kind of leads her to that in post mortem, and then Resistance and Star Wars. So
Yeah,
this
no, that no, you're right. You're dead on with the Rogue One vibes. I definitely picked up on that. Like it's there. You're not crazy.
Oh no, I'm definitely crazy, but
Well, you're right
but
about this. I'll put it that way.
yeah. So so comparing it to those movies, I got a lot more of a Rogue One than I did of any other Star Wars movie. Uh, I didn't feel like this movie was a soft reboot at all. It was definitely a continuation, like they told us.
Yeah, it's a sequel, dude. They definitely like it's 60 years in the future. Like that's the thing. Reboot, reimagination, that's starting over. Or, retconning the films, not the video
Yeah,
game, the film. Like, they're very different.
yeah.
This is Matrix 4.
No,
Uh
I get an opinion on that.
what oh right. Is this your bombshell?
No,
Because you didn't get to drop it yesterday.
no. I mean, we'll finish. We'll finish with the timeline of the movie.
Okay. So let's get to it then. So right. So my father designed the resurrection pods where Neo and Trinity were imprisoned. And as I was saying before, as I said yesterday, that's in the Matrix Online. That is in the Assassin's Memoirs. Now, as Sati mentions, Ramakandra is doing this because he wants to help Neo, because he likes him. He likes what he stands for. He likes what he did. In the Matrix Resurrections, as one of you just mentioned, once Ramakandra understands that what he's doing isn't going to help Neo, that's when he goes all Rogue One and gives Sati the blueprints. Shortly after
And the
that, her
analyst
parents
finds
are
out.
purged. Yeah.
Yeah, he
And right.
finds out. He
And
feels betrayed.
this is how I know it's got Matrix Online written all over it, because you just said the analyst felt betrayed the same way the assassin felt betrayed because he wasn't included in on the little project.
And also with this, it kind of gives some validation to your notion that the the bot that took Neo away when he died at the end of Revolutions was controlled by Ramakandra,
Mm-hmm.
because they go right off to the project.
So here's one thing I will say about that theory, because we brought this up quickly yesterday. When Niobe mentions the Civil War, that's the only place that we've seen the green-eyed machines. Okay. After that, the Synthians and the machines in the machine cities all have red eyes. Immatriculated, we know that the converted machines have green eyes. And the, I guess, what's that? Was it just the DVD version of Revolutions? That machine that you just referenced, that I think could be Ramakandra, had green eyes. Okay.
Yes, it did.
So Resurrections doesn't really give us a definition either way of which side was red or which side was green. But I did notice that when the analyst said, "I was there the day you died," we see that machine carrying Neo away. I don't think that that's suggesting that that's the analyst.
I always thought that was Ramakandra.
That's what I'm saying. I definitely think that that's Ramakandra.
Yeah,
I just noticed that when he said it, we see the shot of the garbage truck carrying Neo away.
and the analyst could have been any one of those little bug-like creatures
Right.
that was.
He could have been one of the.
around.
Yeah, he could have been one of the bugs on the face of Deus Ex Machina. So yeah. All he said is that he was there. He didn't say that he was specifically that machine. So I still think that machine is Ramakandra, is the point that I'm making. But they were both there that day, in my opinion. But yeah, like I said, the assassin was all upset that he wasn't included in on the project. The analyst apparently was in charge of the project or took over the project at a certain point.
Yeah, probably hijacked it.
Yeah, it sounds like he hijacked it as that power shifted.
And also, he could have been in on he could have been in on part of it, and then it's like, oh, okay, so now that we have them rebuilt, or now that we have Neo basically rebuilt and Trinity stabilized, now let's put them together and see what happens, so I can hijack this and use this project for my own purposes. Besides, during this whole time, uh, let's say Matrix Online canon, we just have red pills. We have people just taking the red pill left and right and leaving the pods. So there's got to be some time for the power to decline.
Mm-hmm. Um. Okay, so where were we? We were right. We're still in Sati's construct. Right, but this is where you kind of get like that heist vibe where they're going over the ocean's plan of
Yeah.
how they're gonna bust Trinity out.
Yeah, this kind of sequence never gets old. Godfather 2, or I should say Godfather 1, all of the Ocean's movies, about half of the Fast and Furious movies, like as they're explaining it, we see it taking place. It never gets old.
I love how you say half of the Fast and Furious movies, and it's like 5 whole movies. Um, uh, right now, she says something interesting here. Right, we already talked about how the analyst knows Neo better than the architect did. Sati kind of speaks to that point, but she says after you escaped, he should have accepted his losses and devacuated Trinity. But that would have prevented this extraordinary opportunity that now exists before us. Right. And she said he's convinced the authorities that you will return voluntarily. Again, so we've got Suits in the Matrix, authorities in Sati's construct. So again, I know Metalogic would love this. But there's some strong oligarch vibes in those lines, yo. Like I can't deny it when I read it out loud.
Yeah, you think it's the oligarchs?
Well, do I think that? Not necessarily, but I'm just saying that whole wizard behind the curtain pulling the strings,
Yes.
There's somebody above the analyst. That part is clear.
Deus Ex Machina.
Right.
Humans who are maybe not letting it happen, but making it
happen. Is there anything else in Sati's construct or that you guys want to mention before we move to the next scene here?
Maybe nothing to focus on yet because we'll talk about more later, but the fact that we now know that Bugs needs to be the human brain behind the mind transfer, I guess is what I'm going to call it.
Right. So, well, was there a question or did you just want to jump to that or?
No, I just thought if we're about to move on, that just needs to be mentioned briefly.
That
just
was
the idea
in
of it, and then
the heist plan.
This is part of the plan. Stuff. It's part of the plan.
I mean, but did you have any like comments, thoughts, questions on that?
Me personally, no.
Oh, I got questions.
Yeah, what you got, V?
I just don't understand what's going on with Bugs and Trinity. Like I said, I've only seen it twice.
So my interpretation of what's happening there is that how do I word this? the point of that part is to unplug Trinity without the system realizing that she's unplugged.
Yeah, so they
So
needed like
they
a
needed somebody
body to
plugged in.
trick the system into thinking
Yeah,
that she's still there.
somebody was there, right?
So are they gonna manipulate her DSI like Analyst was manipulating Neo's and Trinity's?
Well, no, that's the shot where you see Jessica Henwick split with Trinity.
Yeah, yeah. The radar was about to be jammed.
Right.
Yeah, I think Azarif's comment in the chat explains it pretty well.
What's
If you want
what's
to
he
put that
say?
one up. That Kajaku was Trinity's access point, and bugs had to temporarily slip in, so the system still registered a human connected to the pod.
Yes, precisely.
Okay, so I they said that Bugs is the closest match. So
That
that
I have questions about.
yeah, that alludes to that she's a little more important than we're being led to believe so far.
Well,
She's not just
that's
a
one thing I
random
was gonna
captain.
that I haven't mentioned in any of these lives since seeing the movie. Well, we only had one since seeing the movie, but still, going into this, 2 years ago, whenever they started writing character articles, what did we keep hearing? The buzz line was Neo-like character. Jessica Henwick is playing a Neo-like character.
Yeah,
Ah,
not a Trinity like character, a Neo like character. So I'm
right.
a little confused.
Like, where are they getting that from? Thoughts? Anything?
I don't know. I'm still trying to collect the pieces so I can start putting them together.
But I mean, I guess that was early enough that something could have been cut out, maybe. I don't know. But when you talk about what you were talking about just now, just in terms of her possibly being more important than we thought, and actually, right, I did read somewhere somebody saying something about a rumored Bugs spinoff. So you might be onto something. There might be more to her character than we were shown in this film, and that we were more introduced to her, so that we can see more of her down the road.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Um, I had issue with her dialogue in the beginning of the movie, where I like did I mention it last night? Like I have to go back and like watch it with subtitles or read along as I listen.
You're not the only one. I've heard
This is a great comment.
a few
Bugs is Sarah
people
Edmonton's
say
confirmed.
that.
Confirmed. Yes. So, oh, you know what? Ooh, Andre, our commenter here just confirmed that Sarah Edmonton is official canon and official Neo, because that was one of the DSIs that he was under or hiding in during this whole project. And it makes sense that he's in a hospital being treated and in a coma, as Sarah Edmonton was in the Matrix Online, because he's getting rebuilt. We literally saw exposed brain in the real world, not a sterile environment. So that, yeah, that kind of lends itself. So thank you, Andre, for that.
So what's after? Where are we here? We're on the. We got all the heist details out of the way, right?
Oh,
So now is it? Oh, right. So right, we got to the heist because now is recruiting. That's where we were. So this is the scene with all the captains. And now Niobe is asking for, well, before she even asked for a volunteer, Jessica Henwick steps forward like, yeah, I got this. She's like, no, no, no. You're the only one that has to go since you started all this. I am the Oracle confirmed. I can't with you guys.
it's a new shell.
But yeah, so right. So we were talking about Niobe and Jessica Henwick back and forth, and her talking about, oh, you don't have to order me because I volunteer.
Which is nice. And then we find out that Niobe's the one who unplugged her. Which then you remember the fact that Bugs laughed in her face when she was presented the red and blue pill.
Right.
And that she was missing the point.
The point, yeah.
Which is a nice little connection between the two. I like that.
Yeah, nice little circle back. So Randy says, it kills me that Sati just casually said her parents and the Oracle were purged, so we're not getting any more Oracle, but was she being groomed to be the next Oracle? I mean, that was just a theory. I there was nothing concrete in the Matrix Online that said she was being groomed to be the next Oracle. I just, especially with her wearing the red glasses in the trailer and stuff, I definitely feel like there were scenes of dialogue there that got cut, though. I definitely feel like...
I think so, too. I feel like we should have gotten more from her. Because she's been keeping her eye on Neo for how long working in the noodle shop. We don't get anything from that other than, I've been keeping my eye on you. And then she has this plan. So I think there could have been more with her and her story.
Because he says, I know you. It's not like he just randomly saw her. I don't know. There was something there. I feel like there was a conversation that got cut.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his life was an endless loop, so he interacted with her on a nearly daily basis while he's eating noodles and steak day in and day out.
Day in, day out. Matrix comic. Is there any other recruiting moment stuff that you wanted to go over before we jump into infiltration?
One of the captains of the ship is
Not
a program.
Shepard. Oh, right. Yeah, we were talking about that because in the live stream we were told that was Morpheus, but that wasn't Morpheus. That was...
No, when you look at it, it's not Morpheus. It's only captains there. It's nobody else.
Yeah, it's a Synthian from IO. He's the captain of a ship, right? And even I'm not remembering the pilot of the Nemesine, but even when she says, "Oh, he's the best pilot," and he's like, "Oh, there's a few Synthians that are ahead of me on that list." So we have acknowledgement that Synthians are, in the IO military.
Mm-hmm. So they're directly on their side.
Yeah, they're not playing. It is their home too. Yeah. He's excited for the blueberries. Right. So it's infiltration, but we already know what the plan is. So now it's just about Slinky Morpheus letting everybody in to hijack
Ocean's 11
Trinity.
plan.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Right. Did I? Oh, right. If you watch the Agent Morpheus video, there's a shot. We saw it during like all the trailer stuff, but or at least I saw it. I just don't think we ever put it on the screen in a live. But I'll put it on the screen here now. How Terminator is that shot?
Yeah.
Like, stop playing with me. Hold on. I mean, if you think I'm kidding, hold up. Let me just put this on the screen. I mean, at this point, which one is Matrix and which one is Terminator? Like,
yeah. They're the exact same picture.
I'm not mad about it.
I think that office meme of corporate wants you to figure out the difference between these two pictures. It's the same picture.
It's the same picture. But I digress. That's some Huzu love. So where were we in the timeline?
Slinky Morpheus.
Right. So he's got to go up the vent, which is convenient. There's no more oxygenated gel in there, so he can just paramagnetically oscillate up the shaft, and then open up the bigger shaft to let Sabebe fly in to bring Bugs with him, and Kujaku could make it through there as well. And that brings us to I like tests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was the plan was pretty straightforward. I mean, if anybody has any questions, they can ask. But right, so I like tests, and this is where you got to find you got to find your screenshot of the agents in this scene, because this is where you were saying you saw an agent, right? Or a couple agents or
Yeah,
something.
I'll keep an eye out.
I think someone said in the chat earlier that they agreed with you, V, that there were agents in the back.
That's what I'm saying. There might be some FBI agents, but like Matrix agents. I'll put it this way: I didn't see anybody dodging bullets in classic
No.
agent fashion. If there's some suits in there with glasses, I would love to see a screenshot. Not saying there's not.
I got it for you right now. Give me
You-
a second.
You found it?
Yep. I'll send it on Discord right now. There's
So
one.
Is it Johnson?
I don't know.
Is it
does not look like Johnson.
Bernhardt?
No? No, it's not Daniel Bernhardt, unfortunately,
Is it-
which is sad.
Is it Agent White?
It is
No.
not. Well, that's a modal agent, so it's not one of the modal agents. I'm gonna put it on the screen in a second here. I just gotta save it and find it.
Oh, but so we have a scene with Lexi and Neo.
Oh, we did skip
Mm.
that.
Yeah, no, I
like
scene.
that
I thought
one.
that was an important scene.
I agree.
Okay, so here is the mystery agent.
Here's
He's
the
right behind
receipts.
Neo's fist. Right there. And there might be another one next to him.
There is. I sent you another one.
Yep.
Oh, and
That's the guy next to him.
and I have another one for you. Give me a sec.
The guy next to him.
Groff fights two of them.
Yeah, so those are like his personal guards.
His own Secret Service.
Secret Service. I like it. So yeah, that's the guy next to him.
And then here you go. That's him fighting them.
Save it. It's annoying. Okay, here we go. Boom. Groff fighting the Secret Service agents.
No, it doesn't look like Bernhardt.
It does
So
not.
let's name them. Well, we'll check the credits. Well, they wouldn't be in the credits unless they have lines. Correct?
They don't have lines, yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't. It happens, but not often.
All right,
but no.
so we'll
Well,
have
what were
to
you guys
see
gonna
in,
say about Lexi scene? I want to hear about the Lexi scene now.
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah, you
Yes, I do. What you guys got for me?
You go ahead, V, because I have something I'm going to add after.
Why don't you go ahead, because I have to be reminded of the dialogue. I remember that it was important and that I was very happy with the scene, but I can't remember the specifics.
Well, I have it pulled up here. Do you want me to say it?
Please, yes.
Yeah, it's quick. Yeah.
Yeah, so Lexi comes to open the door for Neo's cabin and tells him that we're up on broadcast death, or we're coming up on broadcast. They pause for a little bit, and then she says, I thought you should know that I'm here because of her. All I've ever wanted was to be as fearless as Trinity. But I saw how she reacted in the garage. And Neo cuts her off to say, you're wondering if I'm wrong. And she says, what if we're too late? What if she's not Trinity anymore? And Neo says, I never believed I was the one, but she did. She believed in me. It's now my turn to believe in her.
I love the next line is, this is where it gets tricky. Now that's in the anomalium.
Yeah, it's just another cut.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just funny when you read the transcript, it's just a quick break to, this is where it gets tricky.
No, but it flows though. There, you know what I mean? Like
It does.
in script dialogue, I see what she did there, or I see what the pit did there. Jonathan says Lexi was my favorite character of the movie. Me too.
So what were you going to say about that one, V?
Okay, so I really liked the dynamic with her having a family in the Matrix, and it's like, okay, so this is like a big decision because, you know, if you're a loner, you like Neo was in the beginning, the decision's a little bit easier, but when you
Yeah,
have,
you don't have any roots.
yeah, when you have children, it changes things. So now, them being programs was a bit of a letdown for me, because if they were not, now it's like, okay, so Trinity's got like a long way that she can go, even backwards, or going back to retrieve the children, which is something that what we saw in some of the comics. Or
Quickly
that's
jumping
what.
in, there's 3 of them too. There's not 2 kids, there's
Oh, there's
3.
three.
Well,
Right, because
there's Callie. Callie
when
got hit by a car. We have to
right,
take Callie to
that's why
practice.
Chad and the kids had to show up, because Callie ran after her when when Tiffany left to go to Simulate. So there's some heavy guilt trip move right there. Like, you running out of the house is what got your kid hit by a car, because that's cool. But
It was a big.
yeah, 3 kids, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but you continue. I'm sorry.
So this decision is, it's like it's a heavier decision. Like, it's more than just the plot of the movie. This is like it's just a heavier. It's like a heavy. I don't know what's the term I'm looking for. The gravity of this situation is much greater.
She has
So
more to lose, I guess,
Yeah,
in
for sure.
leaving.
yeah, and not even like losing, because she would, considering their program, she would lose if she stayed, but she doesn't know that at the time. So
Exactly. Exactly.
so if she were to choose to stay, it's like, well, you can't really fault her, even though it would kind of suck for
You
everybody.
can't. And
You know,
that's exactly how Neo responds too.
roll the
He
credits.
he understands her choice.
Yeah, so that acknowledgement going in is like, that's like a really cool scene.
Hmm
A very good situation that they're in. Interesting.
hmm And I really like there's this really short little pan to Lexi as Trinity is walking away with Chad and the other 2 kids. And it looks like she's about to say something to Trinity, but she doesn't.
I was actually looking for that. Did you DM it to me, or is it in the
I
GIF
can
wars?
might be in the gift force. I'll find
Yeah.
it for you. You guys don't want to know.
Yeah, we're not going there. But no, it's that, like I said, she was my favorite in this, and I'm not kidding. I think I downloaded the other. This is another agent pick. If I can find it,
Here's the gift for you.
I'll take it. So good, so good. All right.
Just like so much meaning in such a like second of a frame.
That's what I'm saying. Like, for as little lines and dialogue as she had, Aaron Dira grand slam on this performance. Yo.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Like, you can feel her heart breaking.
Because that's not the Trinity that she wants to be. That Trinity that's walking away is not who she's based herself on.
Now, because I don't want to keep V too late here, but we're almost through. Right. So I like test. I can't be her, and Simulate Brawl. So we're all up in here. So now I guess, what does she say? What triggers her?
Chad saying her name, the wrong name. I think it's just the way that Neo's looking at her from across the the coffee shop. The way that she has this implied internal conflict of knowing who she is but not knowing who she is. And I think part of it is Chad saying Tiffany so many times and the third one being so aggressive. But I think part of it is seeing Neo get slammed onto the table.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It might
had three movies of her always looking out for him and always going to rescue him. Right? She brings him back in the first movie. In the second one, she takes out the power grid after the failsafe came on. Third one, she's the one who got him to the Machine City and saves him from Mobile Ave. She's always there to rescue him, and she sees him in trouble, and I think that's one of the key triggers.
Well, what I was going to say is I think it would have been, wise of the analyst to wait the 12 to 40 seconds for them to leave before they started kicking Neo's butt. Like,
and he even says that he shouldn't have pressed.
Oh, man.
And then Trinity delivers the F-bomb.
I hate that name.
Right, yeah. So take your hands off me. So, right now,
just like here, call back to Reloaded on that one too.
For sure. Now what's different here is unlike the architect who honors his deals. Again, you have the opposite from the analyst who says, like I said, it says he shouldn't have pressed, but that he can't let them walk out of there. So he reneges on his deal, even though he claims he likes tests.
And then Smith appears and says, "What has the world come to when you can't even trust a program?"
Okay. Lies.
Which is maybe a callback to Revolutions as well.
In what way?
Because the architect says, "What do you think I am?
Human? No, I totally get it. No, because this is what I was saying before. Just talking about the architect's speech. I'm glad you said that because it actually makes me feel even more validated with my previous perspective of the architect. Like I said, he keeps it 100. The architect is probably he's probably the most factual, truthful, dialogue,
he's the most reliable machine.
Right? Yeah, all that. He's all that. The analyst is not, but us seeing the dialogue here kind of confirms that. I've gotten a lot of pushback and bad takes. I think bad takes about programs lying and all that stuff. So we know the analyst is a liar. That's established. But the architect, not so much.
Okay, I guess now we fight.
Right, and Smith acknowledges again that he is free because of Mr. Anderson. At this point, right, and then you have Michael X. Summers, the bug from Sense 8, when Smith leaves and what just happened? The whole callback to Day In, Day Out, the Matrix comic there. Right, because here our unexpected alliance ends.
Yes. And Neo and Trinity make the physical connection. And we get that light blow up.
Right, the golden bond.
Yep.
The acids and the bases making explosions. V, did you have anything about this moment? The end of, I guess, the Simulate brawl?
Well, I'm kind of following it along on HBO Max as we go through. So I see where Bugs is connected like along the same like cable as Trinity. So it's like a Y connector.
Right. Yeah. Splitter.
Yeah, splitter. Thank you. So yeah, I just didn't understand that when I first saw it.
It all happened so fast, officer.
Yeah. And then they plug it back into Trinity's neck jack instead of her cranial jack.
Oh, okay.
Now they are reaching for one another and they're overpowering everybody. So is love their superpower?
I mean, that would be consistent with the original trilogy.
Well, or is
Would it not?
Or is it their source code?
Why can't it be both?
I go with both.
It's got to be one or the other.
Yeah, I think the major key, especially over these last 2 years, the major key to the Matrix universe is non-linear.
I think for them, it's that concept of love. I think for within the Matrix realm, it's that source code. But they don't care about the source code. They care about each other.
So I got more on the source code that we'll talk about a little later.
So, okay, so that's the Simulate brawl. Right, and then now they got to make their great escape. Smith is gone. Neo can't fly.
Fun little humor.
You know,
the way Trinity nods at him like, yeah, you can.
Oh, right. Calliope is the mayor. That's a Zionite, right? The mayor of San Francisco, right? So, right. It's swarm mode. People are, or bots are throwing themselves at the crew and Neo and Trinity and trying to take everybody out. It's pretty chaotic. I guess for me, because of the San Francisco leaked footage, at the time I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking that it was necessarily the grand finale because there was so much. I thought like this stuff we were seeing might have been split up more, if that makes sense. But no, that's pretty much it. So seeing it cleaned up in post and all that fun stuff was a treat. Because, when we're looking at people's phone clips and drone clips, it was just random chaos. But yeah, okay, so that's what I was going to say. This particular action scene, but even really the whole resurrections, like with whatever you said before, and I said it all happened so fast. One of my main problems with Revolutions in terms of flaws was the pacing. I thought there were times where it like really dragged, and it felt like the longest Matrix film when it really, I think it's the shortest out of the original 3 in the trilogy. It's definitely not the longest, but it feels like the longest. You know, this scene in the movie in general, like I don't feel like it dragged. It just kept moving to me anyway. So I was a fan of the pacing of this. Now, again, what comes with that is in order to pick up everything, you have to watch it more than once. Like there's no way you sat through that 2.5 hours and then just absorbed every detail. But that doesn't bother me. I plan on watching this more than once. So, but yeah, is there any, I mean, I guess, like I said, it's an action scene. Is there any takeaways or important stuff that you want to talk about while they were being chased by the swarm? Heading to the
Maybe
climax
it's not
here.
important, but I know when we saw the trailers and he would stop the car in front of them, I spent the whole time hoping that they would use that car like a ramp and launch off of it. And then they did, and that made me very happy. And I thought the bot bombs were an interesting touch.
Well, he said, did he use the word bomb? What did he say?
I think Neo called them bombs.
Yeah, he's turning bots into bombs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't see an explosion, though. I just saw them splattering on the ground.
Yeah, the bombs that are being dropped.
And they're programs. And they are programs because they burst into code. Because I know.
Yeah, it was like this kind of goo.
People or not, but
it's like code goo, like how Trinity melted.
My question though is,
so maybe that was a bot.
Not the same.
Mapes.
I say they're
programs. It's different.
But in the credits, they mention a woman in red. And I know some people.
We lost you there. Alias, you said, I know some people what? I wonder what happened to her audio.
We're losing her.
Yeah, and I feel bad because I don't know where she was going with it, so I don't want to go too far off topic here. But V, while we're waiting for Alias to work through her technical difficulty, was there anything or takeaways from the actual chase or this action scene that you wanted to mention?
Well, I think that the bots that are turned into bombs, I think that they're just copper tops. I mean, do we have any context of calling them bots prior?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. He refers to them as bots, turning bots into bombs. The analyst says he uses bots instead of agents. So,
see, I figured they were just copper tops, and they got overwritten, or are they just all programs?
I was under the impression that bots, quote unquote, meant like NPCs.
Yeah.
And she's back.
Yeah, our internet went out for a second. But I'm back.
So you were saying?
They credit a woman in red in the movie, and I know there has been. I never saw a woman in red, but there's been
have you seen her?
The woman who wakes up in the bed with. No, I have not. But there's been suggestions that she's the blonde who wakes up in the bed with the first bot bomb.
Maybe. I mean, I don't remember clothes.
Maybe. I can't confirm or deny. I'm just raising that point.
Yeah, I was under this impression too. The comment says I thought bots were low performance NPCs. I don't know. But it's not the same actress that was the lady in red before, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think we would have recognized her.
I think I saw a picture of someone that was credited as the woman in red, and they were a brunette. Definitely a different actress.
All right, so Swarm Skyscrape. Now we're at the top of the building. And I did notice in the San Francisco shoots, that street of that building is like Trinity Ave or something like that. There's not a shot of that in the film, but I saw a picture of it when they were shooting in San Francisco. I don't know if that's the real name of the street or if they just changed the sign.
It is.
Oh, that's interesting. Got like some White Rabbit vibes, right? Club Matrix. So yeah, this is the the leaked shot of Trinity and Neo and Lover's Leap. You want to take the lead on that one, V?
Yeah, Lover's Leap was a little nugget from the Matrix Online. It was like a newspaper heading. And the moment we saw the newspaper heading, it was like precognition. So you see somebody reading a newspaper article. It says Lover's Leap. A couple leaps to their death, and then it pans up, and there's a rooftop fight, and a man and woman are knocked off and fall to their death. And it's like, oh, well, we'll just explain it like a lover's leap and like a suicide, like a double suicide. But that wasn't the case. It was actually fighters that fell off the roof to their death. And now here, 15, 20 years later, we have something very similar. They leapt, and I don't think that they knew at the time whether they were going to fly or survive or anything. And they were just like, hey, the Matrix is just going to end with us right here and now.
Yeah, a bunch of people were saying that they hear an echo in the chat. We lost Trinity again. I don't hear an echo. So I don't know what's going on there. We were so close. But yeah, this is the shot where a lot of people were saying, oh, Trinity's the one now. She's got Neo's powers, blah, blah, blah. Oh, she's back. There she is. You there, Trinity?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, what an incredible stunt. Like, I know we've talked about it before, but seeing different angles of it now, and wow. They were able to like act and keep facial expressions.
Didn't Keanu Reeves say he jumped off that building 19 times?
Something like that. And they worked their way up.
That's crazy.
Henwick also said that their insurance person was losing their mind because they kept doing it over and over again.
But right, they take the leap of faith, and Trinity can fly and hover. I thought that was cute. Right, before that, Neo redirects the missiles. That was a pretty cool shot.
Mm-hmm. And Trinity sees the code.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of dialogue in that part because it's like all action, right?
Action, facial expressions.
And then we go from Trinity flying away with Neo to the analyst scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a question.
Well, we see them on the ship first, right?
Yeah, they
Yes.
embrace on the ship.
Yes.
Hold hands, right?
They're feeling if they're real. And it's very sweet.
All right. So here's my question. So did she like force push the entire sidewall of his office, or like what happened there?
She can do whatever she wants now.
I just I in 4 viewings I haven't like I just see that there's no wall there. You know what I mean? Like I don't know
Well,
what would. Yeah,
she explodes it, right?
that's what I'm saying. Is this like a Dark Phoenix Jean Grey mind blow it up thing, or is it a force push or source push rather? This I'm curious about.
Alteration of code is what I'm going for.
Right. Neo, I'm not doing this. Are you doing this?
I loved that. I loved that.
um yeah, I wonder what's the private joke with her name being Tiffany.
You know, I can't say I know, but I will say that I have read many fanfics in the past where Tiffany ends up being the chosen name. And I can say that I personally never vibed with the name Tiffany. So perhaps that's the nod. I don't know.
Well, it's not quite a Neo-Ologist nod, but we'll take it. um yeah, I love that she kicked his jaw clean off. That was
Just like
cute.
she wanted to do to Chad.
Well, it's only fair since Chad wasn't real and the analyst was
Mhm.
pulling the strings the whole time, right?
Mhm.
um do you think that they kept the deja vu kitty for themselves?
I like to think so.
Looks like a cool cat to me. I don't know. Did you guys have anything from this conversation that you wanted to mention? Because I'm ready for Vesuvius to break the internet with his theory, or rather, perspective on where things should go.
I really liked how Neo stood in the background of this
Oh, and just let her do all the
and
work.
just let her do it. He knew this wasn't his battle to fight, it was hers, and she wasn't going to let him get in the way.
Shadow Artist says the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, maybe.
It is.
Maybe. I
Did I
haven't
say at
seen
the
it.
beginning? At the beginning, they say that mom loved Audrey Hepburn.
Ah, okay.
Shit. Yes. Um. Okay, so I haven't seen Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Me neither.
What's the Tiffany character, or is it actually Tiffany character? What's the joke?
He says Tiffany equals posh, elitist, pampered rich girl,
That makes sense. My
which is
my brother's
definitely
got
not
a couple
Trinity.
of Tiffany's. Do we have any Matrix fans out there named Tiffany? And how do we feel about this?
He definitely got some named Chad. Um,
In many ways, Breakfast at Tiffany's is a story about the human desire for companionship and love.
Here's a question since we're on this scene. Kavion Davis asks, do you like the Wake Up by Rage Against the Machine? Are you talking about the cover or the original?
I'm assuming they meant the cover, and I
Right.
did.
Fee, did you have any feelings either way?
Yeah, I love the Wake Up by Rage. That was actually the walkout song for my first amateur fight. And
Nice.
I've only heard the cover once out of the two times I watched it. Um, it's not the original, so but I don't hate it. Um, I mean, it's a cover, you know.
No, I mean there are some really good covers. I think we're kind of in the same space. Like I've seen people like, oh, they really didn't like it. I didn't feel like offended by it. You know what I mean? Like
Is
it wasn't like, oh, this is a poor choice. You know, it
is it
wasn't
a
that.
woman that sings it?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely a female lead. Um,
So I mean, is that it? Are we getting hate because you know Trinity's standing in front of Neo, and now we have a woman singing "Rage Against the Machine"?
what you call it,
Is
Alias? You say the dude bros?
The dude bros, the
uh,
gatekeeping, the anti-female agenda. Just over it. We're over it.
yeah, I mean, listen, if it bothers, if that kind of stuff bothers you, you're kind of letting that stuff bother you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, go cover the song yourself. It's
Yeah.
out there. Just go do it. Okay, so I've got the credits rolling, and I see an Agent White and an Agent Jones. I
Right modal,
see. What's that?
right?
Both
Agents from the
modal.
modal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't specify it, but yeah, that's
No, I'm sure.
the only. And then Woman in Red is Danny Swan, Dani.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Funny, I put in Danny Swan and Matrix came up. So let's check her IMDb.
Now, what's Smith's copper top name or blue pill name?
I said Matt Hinges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm taking that when the Matrix Online comes back.
Okay, so is my screen shared? No. So this is Danny Swan. This is the quote woman in red at the Matrix 4 premiere.
Who was she though?
She could have been the woman in the bed.
I have no idea. She
That's what I'm
hasn't.
saying. Like she's not. I'm
She was
not remembering
blonde.
her face.
She was blonde. The woman in the bed was blonde.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can dye your hair. You
Not
know,
that
Ellen
she's
Hallman
red,
was dark haired. You know what I mean? So
but I don't recall her having red. Let me rewind a little bit and see if I can get to that.
She wasn't in red either.
Yeah, I thought she was in white.
the woman in the bed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really remembering like a red outfit anywhere.
Yeah, and I'm looking on her Instagram, and she's saying like she's grateful to be a small part of the movie. And it's like, who were you
Say,
though?
where can I get a timestamp though?
Who are you? She's sharing the trailer.
I'm gonna guess the rooftop. When Neo is like stepping off the roof, I'm gonna guess she's up there.
At
Oh.
the
And I
party,
don't.
the James McTeague.
Yeah, I'm
Ooh.
gonna
I'm
guess that
gonna
she's at that part.
I'm gonna skip back to the party and see.
All right, V. So we're getting close to your heart out. So what's this bombshell you're gonna drop on us? Said you had a controversial opinion.
Yeah, I think it's controversial because of my stance on the Matrix universe as we know it. Now we okay. I think we kind of agree that Lana Wachowski doesn't particularly want to do another Matrix movie. Didn't want neither sibling wanted to do another Matrix movie until fairly recently. Some circumstances that are less than desirable with the passing of close friends and family. So accepting that they did not want to do another one and that there's another script in play and it's probably a prequel, I think that it is time for a reboot of the series.
Interesting.
And it works within the it works within the current universe of the Matrix. If they reboot the movie franchise, and here's why I'm in favor of it. Before I even get to that, here's why I'm in favor of it. There was a Reddit post saying, "Who would you like to direct Matrix 5?" So I said Lily and Lana Wachowski, and they're like, "No, they don't want to do it anymore." It's like, hey, you asked the question and I answered it. Okay, that's who I want. to direct the movie. And if they don't want to do it, that's fine. Um, and their their nearly perfect trilogy will stand the test of time, and people will feel about part four however they feel about it. I think it's a fair follow up. Um, but I want more Matrix. Uh, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to put it in somebody else's hands, another creative team's hands, but nobody's going to be able to continue this for moving forward and be true to all the little nuggets that only the Wachowskis know about. You can't play off all the little nuances. You got to start fresh. So if uh, Lana does not want to continue with part five, then I think it is time for a fresh start. Fresh characters too. It's got to be, you know, not
Well,
not a young Morpheus and not a this is what happened before Neo, or Neo version 6. No, it's got to be something different.
so I guess we should clearly define what do you mean by reboot, because that's the thing. I feel like that word just gets kind of tossed around, and people have a different definition of it. So what is your definition of a reboot?
Well, let me ask you, what's your uh, definition of a cinematic reboot?
Like I said, I like, instead of the reboot word, I like the word reimagination. When you say reboot to me, that's like the Leslie Jones Ghostbusters.
Uh huh.
So it's Ghostbusters, but they don't acknowledge Dan Aykroyd and the original
Yep,
crew at all. It's
that's
just
right.
new Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Now that's a
But
bad example.
but this is what can happen when you do that. Just saying.
Hey,
Now,
there's
a good
risks.
example, a good
There's
example would be
risks.
Mad Max Fury Road. Now, I had this conversation on the Discord. I don't think that Mad Max Fury Road was better than the original Mad Max. I think that that's a little bit of crazy talk, but I still enjoyed Mad Max Fury Road. But at the same time, I feel like it was like a hour and a half long chase scene. So it was entertaining. Like, it was action. It was good. It was well done. It was stylistic. But I don't think it's better. In fact, I don't think it's better than any of the three previous ones. I thought that at the time, especially for the time that it was one of those, I guess, post-apocalyptic series that hit home for me. Like, I felt like this is something that if we don't do better as a society, like, we could end up here, kind of thing. Matrix left that same impression on me. They're different, but it's still kind of like the same potential bad outcome, right? So Fury Road didn't do that, but I don't think it was trying to necessarily do that. So that's why I think it's a good example of a reimagination. Dune would be a reboot, a reimagination. Same story, new director, new actors, new tech. I think out of all the ones we said, Dune was probably the only one that actually needed a reboot. Um, so right, before I ask my next question, what's your definition of reboot when you talk about the Matrix?
Basically starting over with, a new line of movies. Now, I would use the example of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So we had the original, what, in like 1989 or something, and then we
Go
had, I think
Ninja,
it
go
was,
Ninja, go.
well, you know,
You started it.
lessons have been learned. Okay. By the way, if the Matrix Online comes back, I'm taking Vanilla Ice as a handle. No, but so we had the Michael Bay um, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, which basically replaced. It's like, listen, we want to tell the
That's the one with
origin
Megan
story again.
Fox's April.
Yes, and listen,
Yeah.
I absolutely hated part one, but I really, really liked part two, Out of the Shadows, with Bebop and Rocksteady. So I really liked that one because it's like, oh, this is basically the cartoon, but live action and computer CGI. Really liked it, but it basically replaced the original what trilogy with Turtles in Time was part three. Um,
Oh my god, I forgot
so
about that.
I would, yeah, I never watched it. I just know it exists.
No, I've seen it.
Okay.
It's embarrassing, right? Um, so
But start over. Don't try and piggyback off what what the Wachowskis did. You just got to start completely. Don't creed out of Rocky. Just start over. Set your own precedents. Set your own rules, and we'll either like it or we won't.
so I guess my response to that is based on the examples we've already just talked about, it can go either way. So that's why, me personally, I mean, this is what we're talking about right now is exactly why I wanted to do Beyond the Glitch the way I did it. Because the whole point was to say that you can do fan fiction without having to use Neo and Trinity, right? And B, say, hey, this universe is so big that you can tell stories with the existing material and not trip over the previous canon. Like, it can be done. Like, there's so much room. I mean, the Animatrix, the Matrix comics, this all proves this. You can work with that material. You can not work with that material and still come up with great, colorful characters. And especially now that we've got 60 years between resurrections and revolutions. So there's all, what, that's 6 decades of stories that can be told, plus stories that could be told after resurrections. And then you can go the prequel route of the, before the original Matrix trilogy. So there's just like all this time where you can have characters exist in this world and tell stories. Now, I say that in my head, I'm not seeing necessarily a rush to make a Matrix 5. I'm thinking more of, again, more Animatrix, more maybe a streamer, a series, a TV series, more comics, those kind of things. Now, yeah, when it comes to a film, I I don't. So with the whole young Morpheus thing, I don't like. It's all rumored. We don't. We didn't read the script, so we don't know that that's necessarily what it was about. It was heavily rumored. I think there's probably some legs to it. Um, but yeah, I know a lot of people are interested in that story. I'm not that interested in that story, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't. As far as Matrix films are concerned, I don't necessarily want prequels. I think that the Animatrix Second Renaissance gave us enough there. And that's just me. I mean, that doesn't mean somebody can't do a prequel story well. Again, and I personally think that another Animatrix episode, I think Matriculated probably took place before the original Matrix film. So there are stories that can be told there that don't have to revolve around Morpheus, Trinity, and Neo. In terms of prequel stories, I would be curious to see a previous one story, one not named Neo, and the Wachowskis a long, long time ago in the Warner transcript interviews mentioned that they wanted to explore something like that. They never did, at least not to this point. But yeah, I'm still going on all these different ideas of things that we could see that isn't technically a reboot. So it's going to be interesting to see what's next. If I had to guess, because we've seen the Unreal Engine demo, that the Matrix Awakens full game would be next on the list. But oh, right, and then right before the movie came out, we got that John Gata information, and he's got Animatrix 2.0 in his resume. So I'm all for that. I'm here for that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, I mean, we don't use that word in here, right? The reboot word makes me nervous. Makes me super nervous. That doesn't mean that there aren't creatives who won't drop the ball. But I think there's way more who would than wouldn't.
It's huge shoes to fill. The
Yeah,
Wachowskis
that,
themselves
all that.
couldn't repeat the magic of part one, but still made solid movies that were really good.
But you said it. You just said it. It's kind of like the disappointment that so many people have with Resurrections, right? Like, you're not going to capture or outdo the magic of the first one. A lot of it was just the mind blowing scenario, or putting yourself in that world and then realizing, like Neo, that it was all a dream. You know, once you have that part of the story, okay, that doesn't surprise you anymore. You know it. So that is it's hard. I think I think that's ultimately what I'm trying to say is that there's a high probability whoever takes on that task is setting themselves up for failure. I mean, we're talking about resurrections, right? And like you said, I haven't been reading all the negative stuff, but same thing will happen. Like people are going to have an expectation and it's probably not going to be met. It might be a good movie, but it's going to, you know, it's going to have to probably endure a lot. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm sure that there are at least a handful of creatives who would do a good job. And if it goes that route and they need a consultant, definitely holler at me. I'll make sure you won't mess up anything mechanically anyway. But yeah, no, it's an interesting thought. I think that if it's gonna go that route, it'll be a while.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be a while. It's got to breathe.
Yeah,
And
that's something I gotta let this breathe.
Hopefully, we get an HBO Max series out of this too.
So to that point, if it's gonna go that route, the reboot route, the best way I think to prevent dropping the ball is to organically build the community with other media. You know what I'm saying? Like make it so that the fans are beating the door down for another one and that they have no choice but to make it. But that means that the stuff that comes in between has to be good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can't give us a bunch of nonsense and then say, "Oh, do you guys want a Matrix 6 or whatever?" You know, or rather, excuse me, a rebooted Matrix series. So, who would you hire for this? Who would be your director?
Me?
Yeah.
So non-Wachowski. Well, how about our co-director here? Or is that a little too close? Yes, McTeague. Or is that a little too close to playing it safe?
Or
Right.
Chad. Bring Chad in.
Yeah,
You laugh. I'm not joking. Like he directed and wrote John Wick, right?
Well, I'm laughing because you said Chad.
Yeah. I can't remember his last name right now.
I can't even say it. So it's
Stahelski.
There you go.
Yeah, he's been involved is since what, the first one?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was the stunt double back then, and since then he's written and directed John Wick.
That's not a bad idea, but would somebody who's in the circle step up, or is it? You know, I guess I'm trying to over rationalize my hypothetical question and answer.
Well, no, I asked you a follow-up question. I'm not saying that somebody from within the ranks would be the worst idea. So, because right, V for Vendetta, they were working off of a book with that, right?
Yes.
Comic, yeah. Graphic novel.
Graphic novel, sir.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. I don't know who I'd pick if I had to pick McTeague or Stahelski. I don't know who I'd pick out of those two. If I could only pick one of the two, I'm not sure. I might flip a coin.
Well, they'll have to fight for it.
And people will, like, if they're looking for somebody else.
Celebrity death match.
Yeah.
I mean,
they'll fight to direct that.
Yeah, this comment says love Villanueva, but I need him to get back to making his own original stuff. Who did Scanner Darkly? Great question. Richard.
What a good movie.
Richard Linklater. Linklater. messing up his last name, but yeah, no. Not only was that a good movie, but he did Waking Life, and that's one of my favorite movies. In
On
fact,
a side tangent, can I say if you haven't read Scanner Darkly, very good read.
Philip K. Dick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he's a huge Philip K. Dick fan, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of the these kind of matrixy concepts are in that wheelhouse. You know,
Yep.
What's funny though is, you know, he started out as an indie, and I believe his first film was called Slacker. It's
He directed School of Rock.
and Dazed and
that's a nice
Confused is
movie.
probably the one that put him on the map. But what I was gonna say was right. I Slacker, like, you could probably watch it on YouTube. And if you're not in an indie headspace, like, I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who like only watches blockbuster films. If that's your taste in movies, don't watch it. But if you're into that indie space, and if you're, especially if you're a fan of Waking Life and you haven't seen it, I recommend it, because I actually saw Waking Life first, and then I went back and watched Slacker, and it's almost like Waking Life is the sequel to Slacker. And what's crazy for me as a creative is, like, I could see the progression from him as a young indie in Texas with his friends and some camera equipment. Like, I'm gonna make a movie, hell or high water, just say the lines, let's go. To, you know, a big animated budget, and like between those two films, I can just see like the progression of him as a filmmaker. So in terms of, I guess, idols, you know, when I was working on Glitch, like, I definitely, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Waking Life. Between Waking Life and The Matrix, like, I feel like those films definitely changed my perspective on the world. So yeah, obviously Glitch isn't a change your perspective on the world project, but just seeing where he came from as a filmmaker to where he got, like, that was definitely a big motivating factor for me, you know, to say, hey, I could make an independent short film. Slacker is actually full. It's over an hour. But yeah, I definitely, like I said, if you're into that indie stuff, check it out. Especially if you have seen Waking Life and enjoyed that, you'll like actually see that there's a couple of things, not a lot, but there's a couple things in Waking Life that are like callbacks to Slacker. Um, it's weird because I would love to see a Richard Linklater Matrix film, but I would not hire him for the reboot. I would want him to play in whatever area he would want to play with it. But I don't know that that's, you know, that I don't know that that kind of creative freedom is where you want to go with the reboot on that, if you're going down that path. Because like I said, it's going to be a very, very, very eggshelly situation. Like you said, those are big shoes to fill. I mean, not a director, but even like Solo, since we brought up the Star Wars thing, you know, following up a young Harrison Ford's character, that's hard, man. And his performance wasn't the only performance in there that was subpar, in my opinion. Like I said, in at least he has the excuse of having to follow up a young Harrison Ford's character in Han Solo. But like, Solo destroyed my Emilia Clarke crush. Like, I had a huge crush on the Mother of Dragons, and then I saw Solo, and I was like, womp womp. Oh yeah, but it's definitely after midnight. I know you got a hard stop tonight, so I don't want to keep you, V. So this question here says, what are Warner transcripts? You mentioned the transcripts aren't official. These are just converted subtitles. Yeah.
I did tweet them last night if you want to have a look at them.
Wait, you finished it?
No, I found one online. I told you that.
Oh, okay. But it's got all the names and stuff?
No.
Yeah.
You didn't share that document with me, so.
Yeah. No, this one doesn't have all the names. That's what I'm saying. It still needs a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. yeah, Waking Life is absolutely amazing. I definitely recommend that for anybody. I mean, it's not Matrixy, but it's about lucid dreaming. But like I said, it's a good one. All right, again, we're gonna have to figure out when. I mean, we can do it anytime, but in the last live stream, you guys came up with a great idea, which is to have a Beyond the Glitch watch party, and I am so for that. So we're gonna have to figure out when we can all get together and dive into that. Now that we actually got through talking about and sharing our reactions and reviewing the Matrix Resurrections, definitely make sure you follow at Vesuvius MXO and Red Queen Trinity on Twitter. My Twitter is at NeoMatrixology. If you haven't already, please like the stream. If you haven't already, please watch Beyond the Glitch. Support however you can. I definitely want to make more Matrix fan fiction content. If you've watched it, please watch it again. There are Easter eggs that nobody's picked up on yet. There's stuff that people have picked up on that I didn't think people were going to pick up on, which was amazing. I mean, you guys are so intelligent. Like, it's crazy. Like, as an audience, you guys are great. Some of those comments, people were just saying certain things that I didn't think, like, what I'm saying? I just didn't know that me putting in certain elements would be identified and picked up on. So the fact that people picked up on stuff that I didn't even think was a thing to pick up on was just incredible. But there are things in there that were hidden on purpose. So, like I said, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. If you have seen it, watch it again. Find, share, let me know what you find. Like I said, I'm trying to take a Wachowski approach and let people have their own fun with it. I don't want things to be necessarily dogma, but we'll get into that whenever we figure out when we can have that watch party. So I guess, yeah. Oh my God, we've been talking for almost 3 hours. Thank you all so much for being here. Class is officially dismissed.